Welcome to D-Lab. I have another Johnson Ranger 2 on the bench. This one comes with the complaint of no grid drive. Upon initial inspection, I found many things that can be contributing to that problem. Let me show you, and then we'll fix it. Alright, here's the Ranger. She's in good shape. I noticed immediately that the VFO knob was extremely tight. Listen. Hear the squeak and the binding. So I don't want to mess with that until I can inspect the vernier. Also, when I have grid drive problems, the first thing that I need to look at is inside the VFO, right? Look at that Chernobyl resistor. But in this case, there's a magical mystery board in the way. This looks to be a push-to-talk relay module. But the way this module is mounted restricts access to the side VFO cover. Okay. Also noticed, looking down here, this is the exciter cap. I initially was moving the shaft and I could see that entire cap moving back and forth. I already tightened that up. So obviously, if you look at the front here, the hardware behind the front panel is loose. So yeah, it's looking like we're going to pull the front panel, right? Because there's actually no other access at this point to the VFO. And I need to fix the vernier. And I noticed one other alarming thing underneath. Alright, so when I initially opened up the Ranger, I found this screw and lock washer laying loose inside. So I immediately started searching for a hole. And guess what? There it is, right there. There used to be a screw there. And what is above this? The terminal board inside of the VFO. So I found this picture. So right there, you see C20? You see that nut right there? That's the one that's missing. So probably the nut is floating around somewhere in the VFO. But the worst part is that is the ground point for the OA2 regulator and other components in the VFO. So we've lost the ground, and that's probably why we've lost grid. So there's no reason for me to troubleshoot any further at this point. We're pulling the face. So it seems these days that every time I work on a Ranger, I gotta pull the face off, right? It is actually the best way to gain access to the complete insides of the VFO assembly, and also gives you an opportunity to clean and lube all the knobs and switches. So that's a good thing. So the process is you remove all the knobs. You have to unsolder 2 wires off the back of the meter. Okay, then there is some hardware there that you're going to remove. But what you have to do, and it's critical, is get access to the set screw on the vernier coupler. Okay, and that's underneath of the radio. Right now there's 2 filter caps that were installed that are in my way. But you have to loosen that, and then you can pull the face off carefully and not damage that coupler. So here we go, let's pull the face. Alright, all the knobs are pulled. So now I need to get access to the little coupler up in the VFO, which is through this hole. These caps were in the way, so I've taken off their ground, swung them out of there. I'm going to get a flashlight, get my little tweaky-doo up here, undo that coupler, unsolder the meter, remove the rest of the hardware, and the face should slide off. So I found this kind of interesting. If you look at the wires coming up to the multifunction meter, it doesn't appear as though those have ever been unsoldered. This may be the first time the faces came off of this Ranger. Alright, here we go. Nice and easy. Pull that face straight off. Okay, so I made a boo-boo. I didn't take off the lamps. So we got to cut and detach those so I don't damage the wiring. Alright, try it again. Yeah, I got in a little bit of a rush. Pay attention. Alright, so there is the rear of the Vernier. So I'm going to be removing that and clean and lube it, but first I need to get this VFO cage out of here. See what's going on inside. This coupler up here, if anybody has ever been in here in the past, these get easily damaged. This one's fine, thank God. And yep, I can look inside it right now. So let me take the camera, give you a little guided tour through the slot here so you can see it. So right down there by that disc cap, you can see the terminal board, no ground screw, and look back there. It's Mr. 18K Chernobyl. That one hasn't been changed either. So it's a good thing we're in here. Alright, so things are looking promising. All the problems appear to be in this VFO. I really don't think anybody's ever been inside the VFO before. There's no evidence of it. So unfortunately, to get this off, I have to remove this entire cover. There's about, I think, 8 of these lugs that go through the chassis. And they got 1/4 inch screws. I'm going to have to take off this little magic bracket, go into this board. Then I should be able to lift the entire aluminum assembly up. So here are 2 of those lugs that I showed you on top. There's number 6 nuts that are down here with lock washers. So there's 2 here, there's 2 hidden down in here, a couple up here, and there's 2 underneath of this little grid cover. So you got to be careful when you pull this so you don't nick wiring, because there's like little tabs with screws and it's real easy to lose those screws. When you do this, make absolutely sure that you don't leave anything floating around in the radio or you have a new surprise. Alright, got the cover out of the way. And the other 2 nuts are pretty hidden. You got to be super careful. There's one back underneath of this coil. And there's one like hidden way down here. Okay? Like anything else, just take your time. It'll all come together. Alright, so to gain access to this nut, I had to remove one of the screws off the little crystal plug. And then you got access. Otherwise, you pretty much can't get in there. Now, the last nut I need to get to is underneath this terminal strip. Now, you would normally not see this in your Ranger because this is somebody's modification. So they stacked the terminal strip on top of one of the VFO cover nuts, which is always nice. So I'm gonna have to get that off, then I can get the last nut off and pull that top. Alright, well, this guy's little fun circuit board here got right in my way. I was not able to access the screws, so I took out one of the sheet metal screws, got that thing loose. I don't want to take it out because it's all hardwired in, so if I break a wire and don't know where it went, being a undocumented mod. Oh yeah, now the shaft of this cap's in my way. Good stuff, isn't it? Alright, got the cover out of the way. Get a little bit better access to the VFO at this point, but I still need to pull this front cover because I need to get to the hardware that's missing and change out the 18K resistor, so we're still pulling the cover. Have to break away there and pry on this thing a little bit. And of course I got another wire fighting me. Patience. Alright, got that terminal board out of the way. We're almost there. I might not be able to get it all the way off because you got the screw heads in here that hit this phenolic board. So you got to be like super duper careful so you don't damage things. I might be able to flex this open enough, or maybe not. that's okay. I have access to what I need to see. Now we can really see what's going on. There is the missing ground for the VFO, and this little guy here, that goes up to the OA2. So this thing was probably drifting all over the place before the VFO quit. And of course, there's Mr. Chernobyl. So first, I'm going to replace the hardware. Then we'll change this resistor, clean that switch while I have access, and put this thing back together. So do you see what I see? That resistor is cracked right in half. Real cold connection there. Man, it's a good thing we got in here. It was almost flame out. Alright, we're good to go. Got our ground hooked back up. New 20K 4-watt resistor in the place of that old 18K. I'm going to clean the switch, and of course I'll test these tubes because getting in here is no fun, is it? Look at there, an original E.F. Johnson 6AU6. I wonder if there's still life in it. Not really. She shows weak. It's got to come out. So I've got a batch of these nice gold pin realistic 6AU6s with a lifetime warranty, guys. Look at there. So if it ever fails, just take this one back to Radio Shack. And here's the Johnson 0A2 or OA2 as we call it. See, it lights, but I don't like that. Kind of acts strange. I'm going to try another one just to be sure. Alright, the last thing I have to do is just clean that switch. Both tubes have been replaced, and of course everything else is good to go. So installation of the VFO cover can be tricky, okay? You see these rods, they have to seat into slots on those little variable caps. So the best way to attempt this is to get the radio horizontal again, let gravity help you out. Alright, so you can see that was big fun. I've got the cover installed on the VFO. Screws are in place. I need to go underneath now, put on all those nuts, get that secure. Then we'll be to the point where we can clean these switches, get the vernier cleaned and lubed, and reassemble the Ranger. Alright, it's coming along well. I've got all the hardware reinstalled on the main chassis now. I need to get this vernier out so that I can clean and lube it because it is really stiff. Alright, I've showed this in the past. You take your vernier, you need to soak it in lacquer thinner. That breaks down the adhesive that Johnson used back in the day when they assembled it. Then you'll be able to take the assembly apart. There's some little ball bearings in there and some plates that you clean, and then you lube it with a standard photo lube. Alright, the vernier's been soaking for a while. You can see the adhesive that's like bubbling out of the threads. Okay, so at this point you just want to take like a paper towel, wrap it around those threads, and hold that with a wrench. Okay, got to be really careful because you don't want to damage these threads. Take your wrench, see there, it unthreads real easy. If you did not put that in the lacquer thinner, you would have struggled and damaged the threads. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is simply unthread this thing. So you know it's still a little stiff. I'm going to unthread this, put it back in the lacquer thinner, and clean out the insides. Get the old lube out, and we'll put in new lube. Alright, here she comes. You see all that old adhesive. When you put it back together, you don't have to put adhesive on it, okay? That was just something they did back in the day. Alright, so there it is, exposed, right? And we'll put it back in the lacquer thinner now. Okay, I'm going to let that do the cleaning for me. That will keep everything in place the way it used to be. I would highly recommend that you leave it that way. Okay, it's like when you take a transmission apart, you want to know where the clutch plates were, right? Where the O-rings were. That's what you're going to do here. Because if you just take it all apart and you forget how it went together, that vernier is never going to work right again. So I've learned this lesson the hard way. Alright, if you take a close look, you see the little ball bearings. Okay, and there's the old nasty green lube they had back in the day. Alright, so I'm just going to kind of get that crap out of there. See that plate right there? You want him to stay right where he's at. So I'm going to wash it out real well. And in a minute, I'll just pop these balls out, clean behind them. We'll make sure all the green nasty's out. And we'll put in new lubricant and get the vernier back together. Alright, so the ball bearings fell out. They're in the dish. Like I said, I'm leaving everything in place so I don't mess up, okay? When you get done with this process, you'll have a nice bowl of green pea soup. I just use a Q-tip, work on this, get the old stuff off. Then I'll carefully pull the shaft out, get the rest of the green goo off of there, put it right back in place, get the lube in there, put it back together. Alright, we're ready to reassemble. Here's what I recommend. Get yourself a good glob of VFO No lube. Line the shafts up. Just glob it in there, okay? Pull the shaft back. Get some on the shaft, put her back in. Remember, maintain positioning of everything, okay? Then, put the little ball bearings back where they go. They'll stay in now because there's a whole bunch of lubricant holding them in place. Put yourself a nice glob on there and put it back together. Okay. In a minute we'll test the vernier. So at this point we're reassembled, okay? Now you want to grab your wrench, take your paper towel, you're going to wrap it back around the threads, and take your other wrench and just snug it up, okay? You don't have to get on there and reef on it. Just snug it, okay? Then grab the vernier, make sure it operates, okay? Should be nice and smooth, which this one is. I'm going to clean off the excess of lube, get it back on the Ranger. Alright, she's back on the front panel, smooth as butter. It's time for the final reinstallation of the front panel. Alright, I've got her back in place. So I need to get all this hardware installed and secure, then I'll tighten up the vernier coupler underneath, solder the wires back to the meter, get everything else in place, and we'll be ready to test. Alright, it took a while, but I got the Ranger back together. So let's check that grid current, and then we'll try to transmit. I'm monitoring on the DX150B. So first off, here's my grid. Got all kinds of grid. It's a really good sign because initially it would barely even move the needle. Obviously because the VFO was dead, right? Alright, here we go. Go to plate. Now the power is reduced because there is a screen drive modification on this radio. So it's only putting out about 20-30 watts, where you would normally see around 45, okay? Here we go. Whoa, there we are. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we're talking. Here's my modulator current. And this transmitter also has negative bias for the modulation current adjust instead of the resistor underneath. So I saw a lot of modifications while under the hood of this Ranger. Okay, there was the push to talk, there's some audio mods, there's some reduced power mods so you can run a linear. There's a lot of mods. So unfortunately, I can't verify that all those mods are correct because it's not documented. What I can tell you is the VFO is good to go.